This video is brought to you by Summer Associate Hub.
I've got an amazing topic we're talking about today with a woman who is a dual degree law student, and I have learned so many things just by talking to her. I'm joined with today Reni Biswas. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me. It is an honor to have someone who has such great educational background. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got the dual degree, and what you're actually studying.
Yeah, thank you so much again. I'm currently a dual degree law student with Pace Law School and the Yale School of Environment. When I graduate, I'll obtain a JD just like every other law student, but I'll also am pursuing a master's in environmental management at the Yale School of Environment. And so my plan is to work in environmental law at the intersection of environmental law, public health, and human rights. Prior to law school, I was also a dual degree pursuing public health law. So I obtained a master's in public health at Columbia University.
Wow. And I also hear that you are a former client of ours. Like we've helped you get into a couple of those places as well. How was that experience?
It was great. Sydney's been with me, and the team has been with me actually through my last grad programs with my dual degree program with law school and my master's in environmental management. And it was really great working with them, especially on the essays, which is always like the hardest part of applications, and really just trying to convey yourself on a piece of paper in like 600 words. It's really tough, but they really were able to work with me through that, and I'm very grateful. And I was able to also get scholarships with their help with the diversity essays and really bring myself to these programs.
Well, I'm glad that we were all able to help you. And that's why I want a little help from you today, because you know a little bit about something that's new to me. What is law review?
Yeah, so the way I explain law review is you can think about like any kind of profession, science, which is what I'm used to. Like I was a scientist before I did law school. And all these professions, they have journals where you can actually publish scholarly articles about policy issues, about gaps in social issues or scientific issues. In law school, we also have a similar concept, which is law review, which are these journals where professors, law practitioners, even students can publish articles about anything that interests them, that really addresses policy issues and legal issues that are happening currently, that are even in the literature, and publish scholarly articles. So when you go to law school, you can actually sign up to be a part of these journals. They have a system for that in most law schools, like either through a writing competition, or if you have certain kinds of grades, they might invite you to participate in these journals where you can contribute to research, you can edit articles, and things that interest you in the world or that relate to law, you can write about these issues and propose solutions and propose ideas.
Hmm. That's so new to me that it's almost like, okay, I feel strongly about a subject, so I'm going to write about it, and that other scholars will get to read the work as well. So tell me what exactly is, because I've heard of two terms. There was law review, and then there's blue booking. What is blue booking?
Yeah, so exactly to your point, it's like an advocacy tool. Just like we read op-eds, we read newspapers, we see the news. In the academy, we have articles, we have scholarly journals. So that's kind of what law review is. Much more longer articles, that really based on a lot of literature. Imagine in college, for example, you had to write research papers, or maybe in your grad program, your master's programs. When you're writing a research paper, the first thing you got to do is you got to do research, right? You figured out your research, you figured out what you want to write about, you figured out what is missing in the research that you want to advocate for, that you want to argue about and share with the world. And then you're going to write your research paper. When you're writing your research paper, you've got to make sure that you cite the information where you're getting your information from. In college, and maybe even in high school, students learn about how to make citations like APA, MLA, Chicago. There's so many kinds based that maybe a professor wants or a particular journal wants. In law school, it's the same thing. In legal research in the academy, we have rules. Those rules are come from actually our blue book, which I actually brought here. And it is literally a blue book. It's this thick. And what it is it's rules for how you actually going to cite the sources that you're using. And you can use any kind of source you want to make your argument, to advocate for your piece. Newspapers, scientific journals, videos, movies. But and each of those sources that you use has a very specific rule and a system for how you're going to write out that citation, so that when somebody reads your research paper, and if you refer to a source like a YouTube video, you have exactly the information for where you got it from if they want to go and look it up. So it's really important in any kind of research to be precise about what you're saying. So that's where the rules come in to tell you exactly how you're going to cite your information. You know, who's the author, the date of the video, the link, where did you get it from, maybe a summary of what it's saying. So that's the precision, and then the accuracy of that, the arguments that you're making, what you're advocating for, that there is accurate information, and this will bolster your argument. So it's no different than in high school and in college where you learned APA, MLA. Those were also rules that you learned on how to actually write out, like, I used this research paper, this was the author, this was the year, this was the title, you know, these are the page numbers. So if someone else, like your friend or anybody who is new to this field, wants to read more about your work and learn about where you got your information, they can look up those sources and know exactly where you got those from. And it's, as a writer, it supports your writing, the strength of your writing, to be accurate, to be precise, to be evidence based, and that's really important in any kind of research, whether it's law or non-law.
I remember those research papers so vividly. You said something about, writing in for law review and how you can really express your opinion. What role do you believe law review plays in shaping critical thinking and legal scholarships among the law students?
Yeah, I think as students doing research, you are learning about the law, you're learning about the rules and the systems. And as you learn about them, you also learn about what are the gaps in this system, what are the gaps in this rule, what are we not addressing, that because these laws are influenced by policy. These policies are influenced by sort of how we want society to operate, or how what we think is fair. As a person that I'm passionate about human rights, when I'm thinking about the law, I'm thinking about how can I bring in human rights? How can I bring in policy issues? How can I bring in equity into these systems? And as a student, when we're looking at these legal issues, we can think about what is missing, what is the gap that we want to advocate for to make this law better, to make this system better. And I think that when we're doing law review and we're writing these articles, we can provide our conceptual framework, our lens, and express that through this writing piece that you can share with the world and people can read, and it can be used by other researchers to make arguments and to eventually make change.
Mm, I like that. Can you share insights on how the selection process for law review articles works and how it influences the quality of legal discussions within law school?
Yeah, so unfortunately, law school is a very like ranked system based on your grades, and it can be very disempowering for students. It depends on the school, but typically, generally, if you are, for example, in the top 10% of your class with your grades by the end of your first year, you will be invited to participate in this journal, and so that's like based all on your grades and how you did in your exams. Another method is they have a write-on competition where at the end of the year, usually spring semester or maybe summer, they'll give you like an essay that you have to, with the legal research that they've given you, and you have to write about it, and you actually have to write a memo, like a document, and use the citations and the rules that you learned during the school year during your writing classes to show that like you learned these rules, that you're able to apply them, that you can actually make a legal argument, and you can like edit and analyze your own writing. And it's okay if there's mistakes in them, no one's perfect in this competition, but giving your best effort, and then they'll score those, and from those scores they will invite you to join the journal if you've got higher scores. And every school will have a different scoring system, different prompts they'll use, but generally it's the same. So I definitely recommend reaching out to students in your school and your journals to exactly know when the competition is, what the rules are, the timeline, so you can plan for that.
Absolutely. I think that anything that you plan for and prepare for, you can conquer. How can law schools bring more equity into law review?
Yeah, so I think the first step is that we are only allowing a certain number of students to participate in these journals. So, for example, if you have like an incoming law school class of 200 students, and then let's say you have like 3 or 4 journals, each of those journals maybe has about 20 to 30 people on it. And of those 20 to 30 people, there are some people that were directly invited on, and there's some people that did the writing competition who get invited on. So that's still maybe like 30 to 60 people or so of your class. But then you have the rest of your 100 students who are also going to be practicing lawyers when they graduate, who also are in the classroom with you, sharing ideas about how they think about the law, what are things that they're passionate about that they want to advocate for in the law or in policy or even in law issues. By only allowing a certain number of students to participate in these journals and to learn how to do legal writing, to learn how to do these legal citations, to learn how to make legal arguments, we're not allowing over 100 other students to participate in this process. Our education system is really focused on just learning substantive law, like the specific subjects that you would need to graduate for the bar exam or whatever classes you're interested in, but actually developing your legal writing, developing legal research skills, which can translate to other areas of research, developing how to actually learn these blue book rules to do your own writing, to do your own legal research. We're not integrating that into our education system. So you really had to learn it. You learn it by being on these journals. And it was really disheartening for me because I was able to learn that by being on the journal myself, but I saw that there were many of my peers who weren't on the journal who have really great ideas about, for example, environmental issues that they're passionate about and they want to write about, they want to publish, or they want to work with a professor, and they didn't know, for example, how to do citations, which is an important part of your writing process. And of course, like, we all helped each other, but I think that if we want to bring equity, to me, equity means, like, fairness and access to education for everyone, and particularly students of color who are, I feel, underrepresented in our law review journals. We need to make sure that this knowledge is accessible to all of the law students, who everyone is equally going to be leaving law school and practicing. It's a level playing field. So why shouldn't we, like, make sure that this knowledge is equally accessible and integrated into our education system?
I like that because you're right. If no one ever gets invited on to, that kind of thing, how are they going to know the information that you know from being inside of the club? So, how does blue booking really compare to other citation formats, such as, what is probably the most standard APA or the MLA,
Yeah,
in your opinion?
correct. So I think blue booking, it's definitely practice. It's about practice, and it's not scary. It's not daunting, but at first it will be, because you have this book of like hundreds and hundreds of rules, and you think like you have to memorize them, but you don't. It's just about practice, and it takes years of practice. Even practicing lawyers who practicing their whole life, they might forget these rules too, because it's just about practicing and applying them. And so what it is you've just got to get in there, start researching, start writing, and just start practicing these rules. Have somebody there to help you edit your writing, look at the rules, asking librarians in your school for help on how do you interpret these rules. And the more you do it, the better you get at it. I've been at it for, like, for example, 2 years, and I'm not perfect at it, but I get better at the rules that I'm more frequently using. And every single time, I'm also learning new rules. Like, if I want to cite an international convention, or if I want to cite a law from another country, how do I cite that to make sure that I'm being accurate about where this law is from, where is it coming from, so someone can look it up. And it's a never-ending learning process. You're constantly learning as you do your own research, as you find sources that are interesting to you that you want to use. And at the same time, you also get stronger at the work that you've already been doing and developing. And I think that that's something that will always continue in your legal career if you continue to keep writing.
I like that. So here's the other thing. You just mentioned that you've been at this for about 2 years. What advice would you give a first year law student, the ones who are just beginning to learn about blue booking?
Yeah, I think the first thing I always tell graduate students is, don't be afraid of the blue book. Don't be afraid of, if your first time engaging in legal research, learning how to cite research. Don't be afraid of it. Like, embrace this process, embrace making his mistakes, because it's from making the mistakes in your own writing and getting feedback from another person who's overseeing your work and editing your work that you are going to become better. And I think that my perspective really comes from being a scientist before law school and grad school, where it was always about trial and error. When you're doing an experiment, you make mistakes, And every time you make mistakes, it points you in a new direction. It gives you a new perspective that you didn't know about before. So that mistake is incredibly valuable and meaningful. And those are the things that actually stay in your memory, is when you made that mistake. And so with Bluebook, every mistake I've ever made, all of those memories, all those mistakes help me to just get better. So don't be afraid. There are people there that can help you to learn these rules. The best person are always going to be your school librarians. They are the best legal researchers on your campus. They know these rules inside out, and they're the kindest people. Definitely going to them. And then you have other people in your school, like your classmates and your peers. And so that's the second thing, is like about peer review and peer feedback, because we want to be able to, in the end, share these ideas that we are advocating for, that we're passionate about with the world, whether it's an op-ed, a journal article, a blog, and all of these things. It's the same thing. We want to be accurate with our writing. We want to be precise about where we're getting information from. We want to be evidence-based, that there is evidence to support what we're trying to say, that what we're trying to advocate for. Getting peer review from your classmates, other journal editors, for example, or other professors can really help you to improve your writing, to expand your perspective, to eventually get an output writing product that you're incredibly happy with. And not being afraid of that process, removing your ego and being more open-minded to, this is helping me to be better, this is helping me to think in a different way.
I like that you gave real good props to the librarians. Those are really unsung heroes because they do know how to help you in almost every situation when it comes to books and how to find something. So I'm glad that you gave props to the school's librarians. In your opinion, what are the most common misconceptions or even errors that students make regarding blue booking?
I think maybe students can get really overwhelmed with the rules, and sometimes they might make mistakes on how to write these rules or how to interpret them. And I think that's where you really want to ask your librarians for help, your journal editors for help, to make sure you're interpreting something. And I think that it's really important to be accurate in how you're using these rules, so that you can be precise in your writing. These rules are very specific. So if I have an article, APA or MLA, for example, you will just cite generally the whole article and just say author, year, journal. But with Blue Book rules, they're very precise in that you want to be very specific about what page did I get exactly this statement from, and you have to cite that page. So I think another misconception is when you are doing your research and you're starting to organize your research and plan your research, you want to be very precise about the information you're getting. Developing systems to annotate, to organize your research, to save your articles, to be precise, I'm going to use this paragraph and I'm very interested in this. This is the page number it's coming from, and making sure that that's reflected in your own writing. So that takes a lot of planning and timing. So you definitely never want to rush your research process. It's a very iterative process and requires an incredible amount of precision. And so I think that that's something that's a misconception too. This isn't like high school and college where maybe you could throw out a paper the night before. You really got to be precise. And it's grad school. It's grad school level writing. So you are going to be held accountable by other people in your field, outside of law, inside of law.
I thought that once upon a time when I was in college and even in high school, I could throw together a paper like none other. And then I got to college and undergrad, sure, I could start a paper at 11 and have it in by 11:59. Not the case when I went to grad school at all. And you're right, for something that is really, really intense and in depth, you've got to start researching it and doing everything earlier. But with blue booking, it's not available to everyone, like you said. You have to be in some type of group. What can we do to make blue booking more accessible, or accessible period, to those who don't have it?
Yeah, so currently it's really accessible to people who, they're going to law school. So in your first year or so of law school, you're learning legal writing, how to write a legal memo, how to write a legal brief, like an appellate brief. And in through your classroom, you will learn some of the Blue Book rules, particularly for those assignments. But the thing is, as you progress in your legal career, even after law school, you're going to be writing all kinds of things and all kinds of rules. And because as a law practitioner, you're going to be accessing all kinds of research, scientific research, non-scientific research. And so your blue book is going to be your friend that you will constantly rely on, that your bosses might ask you to use to write your writing pieces. And I think in law school, it is underemphasized because we are going to be legal writers. We need to be very strong legal researchers, and we need to continuously develop that school throughout all of law school. It's an iterative process. So moving beyond just a first year of law school where you get just the basic kind of preliminary exposure, we need to do more in the second and third year of law school, and more courses, or students can actually do legal research on topics they're interested in, and they can continue to apply blue booking rules to get more proficient in them. In addition, I think it would really stimulate advocacy in students for topics that they're interested in, and promoting students to actually do research, to try to publish, to get their ideas out there, because these ideas matter for how we want to move our society in the next direction. For example, like, I'm really passionate about environmental issues and human rights, and we know with the climate crisis, we know with COP28 that happened in Dubai, like, there's a lot of environmental issues happening, and there are things that I want to advocate for with human rights, and I can do that through writing, through legal research, learning and engaging in research. I can develop my writing, I can develop my accuracy, and I can develop my precision, making sure my arguments are evidence based. And I think we should continue to build that through law school, through courses, engaging again our librarians who are the best legal researchers on campus and beyond, to develop these courses, to engage with the students more, and show students that if you've never done research before and you're passionate about things that you want to advocate for, this is a great place for you to share these ideas and to really move policy issues forward.
I think that that was a great way to end the segment today. If you want to learn more about it, if you are really passionate about something, dive in, but make sure you cite your sources. And thank you so much for being with us today, Reni. I really appreciate it. And thank you for explaining law review and blue booking.
Thank you so much.